Here we go with part 6 of the homework machine, and we had a little miniature cliffhanger, I guess you would say, with Kelsey at the end of part 5, where now she has been contacted by this mysterious R. Milner after the whole backwards clothes day, and she just was a little bit creeped out that he knew some personal information about her that there's no way he should have been able to know. And then she dropped that line that she was going to tell everybody about it, but then all that stuff happened with Snick's dad, so let's pick up there. Sam Dawkins. So my dad was sent overseas. It was during the vacation, I remember. We got the call around New Year's Day. Really put a damper on the celebration, you know. He'd been in the Air Force for years, and we always knew he could get called away at any time. But I guess we just hoped it wouldn't happen. Me and my brothers and my mom were pretty upset. But he was a soldier, right? You do what you're ordered to do. You know when you sign up, you're going to defend your country one way or another. I understood. I don't really want to talk about it. Before he went away, my dad gave me his chessboard and some books about chess. He told me to practice up so when he came home I'd be able to give him a better game. Judy. I was very upset when Snick's dad was sent to the Middle East. We're not best friends or anything, but even so, Snick was all gung-ho G.I. Joe about it. He said my dad is going to go shoot guys and that kind of silly macho talk. I was against the war and I didn't want to see the dad of someone I knew get hurt. I didn't discuss it with Snick very much. I didn't want him telling me that people who were against the war were traitors and all that. But I'm sure he was thinking about his dad all the time. How could you not? Brenton. I have always thought that instead of fighting wars, the leaders of the two sides should play a game of chess against each other. Whoever wins the game wins the war. Nobody has to die. War is not the answer. Chess is the answer. Kelsey. When I heard Snick's dad had to go to the Middle East, I just started crying. I couldn't stop. It was like something opened inside of me. Everybody gathered round me and asked me what was wrong. That was the first time I ever told anybody at school that my dad died. I didn't want Snick's dad to die too. We probably have Air Force bases like in Hawaii and Southern California and cool places like that all over the world. But he had to go get sent to the one place where there was a war going on. Talk about bad luck. Miss Rasmussen. When Sam's father was sent overseas, I noticed a change came over him. He didn't crack many jokes anymore. He stopped making fun of people, which wasn't entirely a bad thing. He was more businesslike. Grim, even. I tried to talk to him about it, but he obviously didn't want to. I wanted to comfort him, but sometimes you just can't help. Judy. By January, we were using Belch every day. I had stopped doing my homework on my own entirely. I never even thought about doing it that way anymore. It was just so much easier using Belch. My mom used to smoke cigarettes when she was younger. I asked her how she started, and she said that she tried a cigarette one day just for the fun of it when she was out with some friends who smoked. She didn't like it that much, but a few days later she was with the same people and she had another one. She just wanted to fit in, you know. Little by little, she started smoking a cigarette here and there. And soon she started thinking about having a cigarette even when she wasn't smoking one. Before she knew it, she was smoking a pack of cigarettes every day, and she was addicted to them. I think I was becoming addicted to Belch almost the same way. I asked my mom how she quit smoking, and she said it was very hard. She tried a whole bunch of times, but she just couldn't do it. Finally, she quit when she found out she was pregnant with me. She didn't want me to be harmed by the tobacco in her body. That's what it took for her to stop. I didn't know what it would take for me to stop using Belch. Ronnie Teotwaki. Every day, Snickwad, Kelsey, Judy, and Brenton would leave school together. Little forced, and they just couldn't be a tight group. I couldn't resist. I had to go find out what was going on. So I followed them, hiding behind trees and bushes and stuff so they wouldn't see me. They went over to Brenton's house. I hid behind a car parked across the street. A few minutes after they went inside, I saw some movement in one of the windows on the second floor. Probably Brenton's bedroom. His mother brought them something on a tray, and then she left and they closed the door. It looked like Brenton was fussing with his computer, but I couldn't tell exactly what he was doing. The others were just standing around talking and laughing. They stayed maybe an hour, and then they left. That was it. Sam. My dad sent me an email saying, how about a game of chess? I asked him how we could play chess when I'm in Arizona and he's in the middle of some desert. He says we should each set up a chessboard, and we can tell the other one our moves by email. He says a lot of the soldiers are doing it, and he gave me the address of a website that makes it kind of easy. I went to the website, but it looked complicated. They use a code to identify the pieces and their positions on the board. It's kind of like this. P equals pawn, R equals rook, N equals knight, B equals bishop, Q equals queen, and K equals king. You use capital letters for the white pieces and lowercase letters for the black pieces. And like when you're ready to make a move, you name the piece and the square you're moving it to. So if white types in capital N lowercase f3, that means he's moving his knight to the third row and the sixth column. Like I said, complicated. I email my dad and say it sounds pretty complicated to me, and he says I'm a big wimp and afraid to play him because I know I'd lose. So I email him back, capital P lowercase e4, game on. Judy. Jessica Martin used to be my best friend in the whole world. We've known each other since we were in kindergarten. When we were in the same class at school last year, we would come home every day and do our homework together. Sometimes other girls in the class joined us too. Jessica asked me to meet her in the bathroom after lunch. She was all serious, like she had something very important and personal to get off her chest. She said she was upset because we hadn't seen each other in a long time, and I never called her anymore. I said it was nothing. We were in different classes now, and I was just busy, that's all. I couldn't tell her about Belch, of course. Jessica asked me if Kelsey was my new best friend because she saw me riding bikes home from school with her. Jessica said that Kelsey is like trailer trash and she's got pink hair and everything. I said, don't be ridiculous. I could never be friends with Kelsey. It wasn't a nice thing to say, but I didn't know what else to say to Jessica. I didn't feel good about the whole thing. I didn't know what to do. I'm just not good in situations like that. Sam. So this jerk Ronnie Teotwaki comes up to me in the lunchroom one day and asks me why I'm hanging around with Brenton. I tell him I'm not hanging around with Brenton, and he says, oh yeah? How come you leave school with him every day? I say it's none of his business who I leave school with, and he'd better leave me alone and stop watching me or I'll bust his head. That shut him up. Kelsey. My friend Heather in the other class asked me if I wanted to come over after school and listen to this cool new CD she burned by some new band. I told her I couldn't, but I didn't tell her I was going over to Brenton's house with Judy and Snick. She looked kind of hurt and said, what's up? How come I see you with that jerk Judy all the time? Are you friends? You turning goody-goody? And she said Judy was stuck up and snotty and all that. I said, I know. Told her I wasn't friends with Judy or nothing. Couldn't tell Heather about Belch. She tells everybody everything. I guess it's better for Heather to tell everybody I'm friends with Judy than have her tell everybody about Belch. Judy. I felt bad about Jessica, so I called her up and asked her if she wanted to do something. She said she couldn't because she had a ton of homework. My homework was done hours before. She started asking all these questions, like how come you aren't working on your homework? How did you finish it so fast? Well, I kind of freaked out. What was I supposed to say? That a machine did my homework for me? I told Jessica that I did some of my homework at school, but I'm not sure if she believed me. I was never very good at lying. Some people can just look you in the eye and tell you a total lie and you never know it. When I tell a lie, I get nervous and I start sweating and stuttering and I can't look a person in the face. I'm terrible at it. I'd rather just tell the truth to tell you the truth. But sometimes you can't. Kelsey. Heather said she thought it over and she couldn't be friends with me no more if I was going to hang out with a stuck-up jerk like Judy. So I told her I didn't want to be friends with anybody who insisted on telling me who I was allowed to hang out with. She got all mad and so did I, and I guess me and Heather aren't friends no more. Judy. I was walking to the bike rack with Snick and Kelsey when I saw Jessica and some of the other girls leaving school together. I guess they were going to do their homework together. Jessica kind of glanced at me, but she didn't invite me to join them. She didn't say anything. Neither did I. After that, we weren't really friends anymore. Miss Rasmussen. When Sam told me he was playing a game of chess with his father by email, I was just thrilled. Before that, I didn't see that he had any real hobbies or interests. Finally, he had found a positive interest that would stimulate his mind, and every child needs that. For some kids, it's sports, or playing a musical instrument, or reading. For me, it was nature. For Sam, it was chess. I also thought playing chess was a great way for him to keep in touch with his father, who was so far away. It helped Sam get out of his funk for a while, too. I was careful not to tell Sam how pleased I was with the chess, though. Sam's one of those students who think that if a grown-up approves of something they do, it must not be very cool, and maybe he should stop doing it. I didn't want that to happen. You have to be very careful with the way you treat each child. Judy. My dad has this thing where we have to sit around the dinner table and talk about serious subjects every night. Like he'll bring up the subject of gun control, or athletes taking steroids, and the whole family has to give our opinions. One night we were talking about knowing right from wrong. Dad said that sometimes the difference between right and wrong is obvious. Like when you add two numbers together, there's a right answer and a wrong answer. Or robbing a bank or killing someone is definitely wrong. But in some situations, you can't tell the difference between right and wrong so easily. Like driving faster than the speed limit is wrong, but if you're rushing to the hospital so that a baby can be born, then maybe speeding is okay. Or hitting somebody with a baseball bat is wrong, but if that person was attacking your mom, then it's okay. I didn't feel well. I felt physically ill. I had to excuse myself from the table. Kelsey. Feeling guilty about what we did? Yeah, I guess a little. But hey, we didn't hurt nobody. There are a lot of horrible people in the world who get away with lots of stuff. What we did wasn't so bad. There are degrees of wrongness, you know? You won't appreciate how wrong the big wrongs are if you get all worked up over the little wrongs. Police Chief Rebecca Fish. First became aware of this so-called homework machine back in January. Got an anonymous tip. Somebody called the hotline, said a kid at the Grand Canyon school developed a machine that did homework automatically. Then they hung up. Sounded like a kid. Traced the call to a payphone, figured it was a crank call. Kids do this kind of stuff all the time, and it sounded like a load of bull if you'll excuse my French. It's standard procedure to keep a record of all calls, so I did, of course. Just in case, I know a guy in Washington who looks into this kind of stuff. Told him what I knew, which wasn't much. He said maybe he'd check it out if he had time. Ronnie Teotwaki. Wasn't me. Swear it wasn't me who told the cops about the machine. I'll swear it on a stack of Bibles if you want me to. I'll swear it on my mother. I never called the police. And that's where we're going to pause for part 6 of the homework machine. And we've got a lot of stuff happening in this portion. We've got everything going on with Sam and his dad and trying to stay connected online through playing chess through a website. We're learning a little bit more about their personalities, especially like Judy and Kelsey. We've got Judy on one hand, who is clearly getting very worked up over things. But then there's Kelsey, who has a very different personality, where she's like, look, you just can't let the little stuff bother you, or you're not going to appreciate how big the big stuff is. And then we've got them actively losing friends over using Belch, because they're having to lie to their friends. And man, that's never going to end well, is it? If you're not honest with your friends, who are you ever going to be honest with? So they've got a lot of little conflicts popping up all over the place in their life. And like Judy's starting to see, man, this is creating more problems than it's solving. So we'll have to see where things go. You'll see it back in part 7.